Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. We're going to be putting a new metal dash panel in the Budget Nova. Now, the panel that's there was rusted out at the bottom. I was going to just patch in a few sections, even started making a piece, but as I started working on it, I realized it was way rustier than I thought all the way across, and if I'm going to do that much, I might as well just replace the metal dash. So let me show you what we're dealing with. Now this is a pretty common rust area for these Novas, is under the windshield. Water starts leaking in, it gets wet, it rusts away. I think the upper cowl is in pretty good condition, but the dash panel itself is pretty much junk. And I was going to cut out one section, but after I started cleaning it up, it started cracking a little farther, and it wasn't as solid here as I thought it was. I even had started making a patch panel to fit that section, and it had turned out where it was going to fit pretty decent. It wasn't bad. I wasn't finished with it, but as I was trying to make it fit and see how it was going to fit, I started cracking the dash more where it was rusted. So now we're just going to change the whole dash panel. All right, here we have a new metal dash panel, except this one is for 69 Camaro. They make a reproduction for the 69 Camaro, and everything is the same on it except for this front lip right here. This lip is flat and goes straight down, where the lip on the Nova is turned up. So I'm going to have to cut it and section in that piece, or cut it all the way across, which is probably what I do, is cut it all the way across like I did the last one. Now the dashes and firewall and cowls and all that stuff were the same on the Novas and Camaros. The difference was the front of the dash area. So we're not worried about that. And you can buy this whole dash, but for this we're just doing this patch panel. Now what I'll be doing is pretty much behind the line where the dash pad covers, because I don't want my welds to be on this side where I have to make them perfect and clean everything up and finish it just right. So if I keep my weld line behind my dash pad line, I should be okay, and you can clearly see where the dash pad covered and where it didn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut basically right here on this edge all the way across, go down, and then I'll mark it on the new panel, and then we'll lay the new panel over, mark it, cut it, and then once we get it cut, we can go back through there and weld everything pretty much across the middle of these holes right here. That's how I did my last one on Franken Nova. So we'll cut across that. That way the weld will be, you know, cleaned up and ground down flat and all that stuff, but it'll hide behind there if there's any imperfections in it. And everything from right about here to here will be brand new. Now there's only a few spot welds going across here on the bottom section of the dash, so once I cut this top up here, everything down here, well, what's not rusted is going to peel off anyway. I just have to grind a few welds down here, and this piece comes off pretty easy, so that's not too bad. Now as far as the VIN, I am cutting on this side of the VIN, and I will have to take the VIN out of this piece and rivet it into the new piece. Now I know a lot of people think that is illegal, but it is not illegal, because what I'm doing is I am taking the VIN off and putting it back on the same car. If you remove the VIN from a vehicle, put it onto another vehicle, misrepresenting that vehicle's identification number, then you are breaking the law, at least in the state of Georgia. Y'all might have some weird, crazy, strict law somewhere else where you can't, you know, rub the paint off of the VIN number or something like that, and you go to jail or get the firing squad, whatever you're going to do. But here, this is fine, so please nobody complain about that. I did this one time before, or I think I posted something on a group one time or in a forum, and people lost their minds about me messing with the VIN on the dash. All right, so what I did here, I ran me a piece of tape across my new panel, and I looked at the other one to make sure that I'm behind where the dash pad covers. Anything behind these little clips right here is going to be behind the dash pad cover. So I ran my tape along here so I could have at least some type of straight line to start with. I'm going to cut this across here. Then this piece, without this in the way, should set down over the other dash pretty good, where I can draw a line on the old dash and have a cut line that I could cut, and then I can kind of trim it up once I get it out of the way and get this set on top of it. I can kind of trim it up and everything if I need to make it flush, and then I can start welding. Alright, so I've got it sitting on here, and it's not perfect. You can see right here where the VIN holes and stuff are, that's not lined up. This hole's a little bit off, that one's off, not a big deal. My defrost holes are off a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go down there on this piece right here and edge this piece up, clean it up because it's all the way against that way right now. I'm going to go down there, grind that piece down a little bit, push this whole thing over and see if everything lines up better. Alright, so I took a little bit off, and now we're much closer right there. And on my defrost vents and on the VIN. So we're pretty close going all the way across. I'm gonna trim just another 1/8 of an inch or so off of there, and if it's too much I can always slide it back a little bit. The ends of it really don't matter that much, so I'll be able to do that, get it clamped in place, then I'm gonna draw my line and tape out my original dash and get ready to cut. Alright, so it's the next morning. I've got my new dash panel sitting up here. I've got my tape marked along the edge. Now keep in mind, with this panel sitting on top of the old panel, it's not exactly where it's going to be, so this line may vary just a little bit, because when this actually goes down to where the old one is, like I said, you can't occupy the same space at the same time, so this will move some, and I think I've taken that into consideration with where I marked my cut line. And now I'm going to cut right up, I'm going to take this out of the way, cut all the way across right up against my tape, and then hopefully when I set this back down in there, it'll sit where it needs to, and then we can start tacking it in. Alright, I ground down my rivets, pushed my vent out. I couldn't get the Zizwell all the way up to the side, and the new dash doesn't have this little flange that comes up to the A-pillar, so I just cut straight across there. I have to figure out how to trim the new one to make that fit. Pretty much cut all the way across here, right on top of the tape, and you see it's kind of see if I can make it kind of flimsy now, not real bad, but kind of flimsy. And what I'm going to do is hopefully all this will fold back pretty easy and break off where it's real rusted. There we go, finally. Now I have a great big mess to clean up. That's not that bad. I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum all this out, get this old foam and stuff off of it, see how bad the rust is, and then start grinding out the little spot welds that are holding the rest of the lower dash on, or the dash panel, whatever you call it. Alright, so I vacuumed up all the little rust chunks I could. Now I'm going to start pulling this foam out, or whatever it is. Not sure that I've ever seen this under one before. Maybe it's factory. Anyway, got a little rust right there. The rest of it looks pretty good, a little bit here. I don't think anything is going to affect installing the dash. I'll clean it up and put some rust converter on it. Alright, now what I do to get these little pieces off, I went in here with my scissors and I went across it like this, grinding the surface of this off, because I wasn't exactly sure where my spot weld was because it's so rusty you can't tell. But if you grind it across like that, you get the spot weld real weak, and then you just come in here with a screwdriver on the back side, and a lot of times it'll just tear completely off. So let's get it to where you can grab it with a pair of pliers and pull it off like this. And then you can really see where your weld ended up being. Now you've got one little weld right here you got to clean up. And the reason to me that is better is because if you have spot welds and you can't find them, well, this makes it easier. And also if you have spot welds and you can find them, you're drilling them out. A lot of times you're drilling into the bottom panel. And if it's got any amount of rust on there, it doesn't take a whole lot to get through it. And that just makes everything more difficult to end up doing. So I like grinding the top of it down. That way I leave as much of my bottom panel as I can. Sometimes I still grind through, but for me it works better. I got all the pieces off, so I got some spot welds to grind out along the way where I just twisted the metal off. That's not going to take too long. I do have quite a bit of rust through. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, and some down at the other end. But I'm not going to worry about it because the scope of this build, to do it right, I'd have to remove this upper cow panel and replace it, and I'm not going to wait on the parts. And if they even have one in stock, they do make this piece, but I'm not worried about it. That's not in the scope of this build. This is a budget build, and in reality I was really just going to patch the dash up. I'm glad I got this far. So I'm going to clean all this the best I can, wire brush it. I'm going to put some rust converter on it. I'll also spray some up on the back side, do the best I can to get some up in there, but I'm not too worried about it. When I sell this car, I'm going to be honest and show everybody the videos, and whoever buys it, they'll know that this is under here. All right, so I got all my spot welds ground down, and some of them were raised up where I pulled on the metal. I beat those back down. I hit it with a wire brush and cleaned off all the rust I could get off without really sandblasting or anything like that. And something like this already got enough rust on it. I don't want to sandblast it and create more holes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it with Rust-Oleum Rust Reformer. This stuff works really, really well. I've had some stuff that I've sprayed this stuff on. It converts the rust and it paints it black at the same time. Makes for a really good base. Then I'll go back through and mark everywhere that I'm going to actually be welding, and I'll grind a little bit back out. But for right now, we're going to put Rust Reformer over all this and hopefully stop this rust from getting any worse. Alright, so now I'm going to lay my dash over top of this one and make sure everything fits good. I do have to clean up this edge real quick. It's a little rough from where I cut it with the Ziz wheel. I'm going to lay my dash over this after I clean that up and go ahead and mark everywhere that I'm going to have one of my spot welds, and then I'll go back through and grind all paint off right there where that's at, make sure I've got good metal to weld to. Alright, I've got it laying in here. It fits really good. Pretty tight right here. I'm going to have to move this up and clamp it in place. Got a little bit of a gap there, but not terrible at all. I should be able to tack it without any problems. I'm going to go through here and mark all of my, I do have to cut the corners a little bit. I'm going to go through here and mark all of my little spots on the dash so I can grind the paint off and have good clean metal to weld to. And then I can go back through and then start clamping this in place and start tacking it once I know that everything's going to fit just right. Okay, I've got my final fit done. I've got it clamped down. Now it's time to start welding. Alright, so it's welded in. All my spot welds on the front are done. My wife actually did the last few over there, so that turned out pretty good. I'm going to do some grinding now, get everything looking smooth. Then we're going to throw the dash pad on it and see how it looks. Alright, got all the welds ground down. Now I'm going to sand it real quick and then put some black on it. Probably nothing finish coat or anything like that, just enough to cover up all my metal. Alright, paint is dry, nice satiny finish to it. Let's throw the dash pad on and see how it looks. Alright, so there we have it. Looks pretty good, looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. I still got to put the vent in, so I got to pull the dash pad back off, and I'm going to be doing something about fixing this dash pad, so that'll be another video. But for right now, I just got it up there to make sure it was going to cover everything. Everything looks good. There's no weld seam visible. All that is underneath this. I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. I'll probably clean it and coat it again because there is some debris in here. You can't really see it probably on the camera, but I can see it. So I'm going to clean that off, get it a little bit better, because this area right here is something you're probably going to be able to stare at while you're driving, so you want to get this kind of nice. Alright guys, that is a dash panel install. I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. It looks good. My dash pad actually looks kind of bad now because the dash looks so good. Well, good thing is the dash pad covers up all of my crappy welds. I could have spent more time grinding it down, but it is a budget Nova, not a nice Nova. Now, I'm not building a show car, I'm building a go car. That needs to be on a shirt. Anyway, so like, comment, subscribe. Liking and commenting on the videos really helps the YouTube algorithm push our videos out. So if you have something to say or want to ask a question, go right ahead, hit the like button, hit the unlike button. I mean, I'd rather you not hit the dislike button, but it happens. Yeah, so pretty happy with it. Got a bunch more work to do on this thing. Hopefully get more videos out real soon. I'm not sure when you're going to see this, but when you do, I'm working my butt off trying to get this thing done. We'll see you guys next time.